there is some couching definitely with this joke. It definitely is. You do kind of have to set it up. You need some cushioning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can't just, this cannot be my opener. So.
Yeah, no.
Unfortunately, I've had a lot of problems with infertility, and I had a pregnancy loss and a couple of miscarriages as well. And I just wanted a way to address it. Like I really, when it happened, I really didn't know that much about how many people have miscarriages. Like I didn't know that at least 20% of women have had it. And I was like, wow, okay, this really affects a lot of people and no one's really talking about it. But it happens, and there's not, it can happen for so many reasons. It can really, I mean, they don't really know. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. And I feel like a lot of people, when you talk about it, they just freeze up. It really should be more out in the open. Like it shouldn't be like a shameful topic, because so many people have experienced this.
You can't laugh at that.
So now that we got our anti-Semitism out of the way, welcome to You Can't Laugh at That, the podcast where we talk topics that aren't funny and we find out why they are funny in our never-ending quest to prove that everything can be funny. Joining us today, of course, us being Steve and myself. First of all, Steve, hello.
Hello.
Steve is brought to you by Yuengling, America's oldest brewery. And actually, I saw an article where Yuengling was like the number one craft brewery in America. And I'm like, what are we considering to be craft? Like,
jeez,
who chose that? And then it was paid for by Yuengling. Joining us on the podcast today is the very funny Genevieve Rice, based out of Phoenix, Arizona, originally from Oklahoma. She is not a bunch of raccoons in a trench coat. I have read your bio. I did my research. Don't worry. And we'll get back to the raccoons later because you bring that up in your bit. Genevieve has also been nominated for Best Phoenician to Follow on Twitter, not around Phoenix, by the Phoenix New Times. She's produced a ton of live comedy shows, including one in your living room.
Yes. Multiple. I have done quite a few in my house, and of course Zoom shows, which also in my house. So.
Got the perfect backdrop. So you've got the house shows. You produced those. You're the founder of the Bird City Comedy Festival. And you have the Thank You for Being a Podcast? Is that still happening?
Our last episode was 2019.
Okay.
We're hoping to bring it back, but sometime we've kind of had plans to bring it back for a few episodes here and there, but we haven't. So.
So how many episodes are out there if people are fans of the Golden Girls and want to hear fresh takes on their favorite characters?
We did episode by episode. So we did over 150 episodes, I think.
Damn. Okay.
So we did season by season. Then we did a couple like special one-offs, and we did one episode twice on accident.
That's how you know you need to take a break.
We did a live show one time where we had to pull the episode up, and then we realized about a minute in, we go, oh, this is the wrong episode.
Oh, geez.
And we're like, it's too hard, so we're just going to keep watching it and then just talk about it again.
Let's commit. That's committing to the bit. Well, this is happening. Let's do an episode about the episode where we talked about the same episode twice. Let's recap that. It's a real inception of Golden Girls podcasting.
It was a fun episode to do. I'm glad we did it, but it was fun for us. I don't know if it was fun for anybody to listen to, but
they've done this before.
Lots of people gotta love that. I mean, that's a good show to do topic on.
Yeah, it was good. We found it was like kind of a cultural touchstone. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it's kind of in like firmly. Golden Girls was in that era where like almost everybody, like almost every kid was just watching all TV like indiscriminately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So so we got a ton of people that were kids and had watched this, or like Coach, or like Evening Shade.
Yeah.
So it was pretty fun.
So the Bird City Comedy Festival, is that going to be coming back once things get back to open?
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. How long has that been a thing?
We've been going since 2016. We were planned for our fourth year was planned for March 2020, and that did not happen. So we are hoping for spring 2022.
Yeah, that seems like a safe bet.
I think so. I don't know. Though, I mean, it was weird. I mean, we basically I canceled it the day before the NBA canceled.
Oh, you're a trendsetter. The NBA was like, the Bird City Festival's done. Well, we can't let them show us up.
Yeah.
I know. I like to think we started it. So
Trendsetter. We have on this episode the origin of the lockdown, Genevieve Rice.
It was weird. I basically got told I was crazy. And then 2 days later, we were like, okay, I get it now. Tom Hanks is sick. NBA's closed. All right.
Genevieve got gaslit.
Yeah,
that's fine.
And then there was talk. It was like, okay, maybe we can do this in summer. We can do this in summer. And that was very, very, in a few days. It's like, no, this is not happening. This is going to be a long-term thing. And then I was reading this article that was like, well, if we lock down now, maybe only 400,000 people will die. And I was like, oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because at that point I was like still trying to make it work, and like maybe I can get more hand sanitizer, and maybe lots of towels, and no. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about you first before we dive into the bit and the topic today. How long have you been doing comedy, and what got you into it? What was the moment you were like, oh, I can go on stage and be funny?
I started comedy in about 2007 in Oklahoma, and there was scene in Oklahoma is really small. It was probably about 15 comics, total. And honestly, I always loved stand-up comedy. I thought it was great, but I didn't realize I guess to start it, you can just go to an open mic and start it. And one of my friends actually started an open mic, and I was like, okay, sure. I guess I'll get up there and do 5 minutes, and not even, and I figured I'd do it once, and then it actually went great, which is always a blessing and a curse. And because, and then I was like, okay, I guess I got to go up and do this again. And so I moved to Phoenix about a year and a half later, and kind of got into this scene, and started doing it more and more. And I haven't quit. So
did you move to Phoenix to continue to go to a bigger scene, or was there work or another person involved in that?
Oh, there is a love situation involved. So, yeah.
The love for comedy. Got it.
Yeah.
So when you say blessing and a curse, kind of elaborate on that, because I think I know what you're talking about. Anybody who's done comedy knows what you're talking about, but I want to hear it from in your own words. What was that like for you?
I think, you don't expect it to, if it goes really poorly, I think you either are like, I got to conquer this, or whatever, or you got to be like, I can't do this. This is really hard. This is really hard. And I did really well, for my first time. But then I was like, oh, I got to come back with a new 5 minutes, a week later, and I'm going to kill with this too. And that's just, and then no, my second time was definitely much worse. And then I did the great thing where I invited just about everybody I know to my second show.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I had 3 people drive 45 minutes to see me do very amateurish like stand-up comedy. And but yeah. But like it's good to get that lesson out of the way. And I kept trying it, and at the 2 rooms we had in Oklahoma City. And then I went to Phoenix, the big city that had 10 rooms. Yay. So yeah.
That naturally gets you to elevate your game, because if you see like comics that are better around you, like that, it's that natural human drive to, especially doing well the first time, you want to be, you want to replicate that. And now seeing all these other people doing it, it's like, does that motivate you to raise your game?
I think so. And we had a lot of people in Oklahoma City that were really good and were writing lots of stuff. It was a small scene, but they were like writing constantly, and you're like, and because it was so small, it was like you were seeing people so often that you really had to try new stuff pretty often. You couldn't doing the same jokes. I will say, like, moving to Phoenix, like, it was kind of nice because it is a new scene and they have not heard your stuff before, and you can kind of come in and do really well with stuff you've tried before. But then it's more people, you have to do pretty well to like actually get booked into other places, because especially as a woman in comedy in like 2008, like you really have to kill to do well. Yeah. Or just be like, I'm single. Like, which I wasn't at the time. So I was like, okay.
Right.
How has that influenced the way that you write, you work, and you perform? Do you send, like, in 2008, God, even like 13 years ago, it was a different time. And that's so weird to say, but like, how has that influenced the way that you present yourself?
I definitely, like, in 2008, like, being a woman in comedy was definitely more of a novelty, which sounds insane.
Right.
But I had even quote unquote progressive, like, bookers say like, oh, I haven't booked a woman in months. or like, and they would tell you that in the booking email, like that's not great. Like, yeah. Or would like compare you to other women or like we're all the same, Like,
yeah, that's messed up.
Do you ever feel that there was a time where you were like trying to be somebody else, or like trying to like fit a mold, or have you been pretty comfortable with who you are as a person on stage?
I think it took me a while to get comfortable on stage. I'm a little bit of a shy person, I think, and I had to. There was kind of like I did kind of like a persona a little bit when I first started, which was, kind of a melding of like my favorite comics, Mm-hmm. And I used to dress up a lot more on stage, which I still dress up. I still dress up quite a bit. I'm not a hoodie comic, but I don't know. But I definitely like, I don't wear like a evening dress to do bar shows anymore.
I'm wearing my gown.
I brought a selection of furs.
Darling. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely had to get comfortable with my voice and what I like to talk about, and I did kind of do like a little bit of a persona and kind of to remove myself, and I felt like I did better when I was more myself on stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty natural. When I first started going up, it was somewhere like I was like, oh, Mitch Hedberg, he's really funny. I can tell jokes like Mitch Hedberg, and it did not work. And so I was like, okay, I'm not like Mitch Hedberg. Cool. And just the more and more you do it, the more and more comfortable you get. But those things they have to influence you. Like you can't just go into it like, I've never seen a stand-up comedy before. So
Yeah.
So why do you in your opinion, why does the world need stand-up comedy?
I mean, there are a lot of weird things going on in this world. That's the polite way I'll put it. And I feel like it really helps to, first of all, acknowledge them and make fun of them. And that's kind of the way I feel like comedy is kind of my way of tackling them. I mean, that's kind of how I absorb the news, basically, is I take a subject, I look at jokes on the subject, and then I write my own jokes about it, and sometimes they work. So sometimes they make me laugh, and that's it. But
that's just being able to look at things from a different angle. We're so quick to take things at their surface value. Just generally, it's easy. I don't want to say it's lazy, but a lot of people don't have time to really explore like what the topic is. And so to me, that's the importance of stand-up. So I'm right with you on that.
I feel like also, all these things can really seem like monoliths. Mm-hmm. They can really seem like, oh, there's not much we can do about it. But when you write jokes about it and you really like research it and kind of learn more about it, it makes it more accessible to you, and it makes it a little bit less scary in some ways. Mm. So yeah, I'm doing the world a service by making things less scary.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good segue into today's topic, which is having a miscarriage, which is it's a very natural experience, and there's kind of a stigma behind it. And first of all, what made you pick that topic?
Well, I've had a lot of problems with infertility. And I had a pregnancy loss and a couple of miscarriages as well. And I just wanted a way to address it. Like I really, when it happened, I really didn't know that much about how many people have miscarriages. Like I didn't know that at least 20% of women have had at least one. And when I've kind of talked about it, I had a few people message me, no one was really out in the open. They were just messaging me, and they're like, I've had 4 miscarriages. I've had, it took me 5 years of trying before I had my living child. And I was like, wow, okay, this really affects a lot of people, and no one's really talking about it. But it happens, and there's not, it can happen for so many reasons. It can really, they don't really know. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. And we really just need, I feel like a lot of people, when you talk about it, they just freeze up. They just, it really should be more out in the open. Like it shouldn't be like a shameful topic, because so many people have experienced this. Mm-hmm. And it's not just women, it's, their partners, and, they've also experienced a loss too. So it's not just the woman's problem.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Especially if you're, you have that partnership dynamic, like, mm-hmm. That's what, if that happened to my girlfriend, like I need to be there. That's huge. I think it's so silly that people don't talk about it. Like, I get it. I understand why. Do you think it has anything to do with the societal stigma of like having kids by a certain age and the family dynamic? Do you think that plays a role in why that's the case?
Well, I feel like that, because it is more common if you are over a certain age to have a miscarriage. Mm-hmm. A a lot of my miscarriages happened after I was 35. And it is, I mean, there's also that. There's also birth defects as well, which those are very common. And geriatric pregnancies, a fun term, my favorite. But they are very common, and it's, instead of like putting a stigma on it, or I feel like a lot of society like blames women, like there's not, we still are kind of in the dark ages about knowing about women's reproductive health.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's still, there's still a lot of things they don't really know, and they don't really have as much research as they need, to really know why these things are happening. And so they just say, oh, well, you work too hard, or, oh, you ate too much soft cheese, or, or whatever. There's just sometimes these things just don't work out. Like,
right. It's that striving to appear perfect. And then when that's disrupted, people don't know what to do.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I had my first loss. I had announced, and I had like a pregnancy announcement, and like, dressed up in costumes and everything. And then I had the loss about a month later. And that was fun to walk back. So,
hey guys, I'm a comedian. So you talk about like the monolith, comedy being important because of all these things in the news, but that also applies to these experiences that, 20% of women have had this happen to them. So
my mom did.
Yeah, my mom did too.
And my aunt.
So, it's something, it's very helpful to be able to laugh at it and to be a comedian. Did you feel like an obligation to write something about it? And if you did, or either way, how soon did you determine it was time to start writing something about it?
I think I came up with something. I didn't really set out to write like a miscarriage joke, or a miscarriage chunk. I just kind of,
another fun term.
I just, I was kind of digging around, reading all the fun stuff you do on, the internet about miscarriages, and then I discovered that it was, the medical term was spontaneous abortion. And I was like, that makes it sound way more fun than it is. Like,
so that was the spark.
Yeah, that was the start. I kind of built it from there. And I think people have responded to it. I feel like that, like they do kind of enjoy it. First of all, they learn a medical term for miscarriage.
Yeah.
I'm smarter now.
And I don't know, it kind of helps you deal with it a little bit more. Just someone talking about it, because so much of it is just in hushed terms, and it really kind of, and being open about it is helpful, because I didn't quite know what to do when I had my first loss. I was just like, what kind of card do I send out for this? I don't know.
Yeah.
And but people, I had people like a year later were like, how's your baby? I'm like, about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like hand them a card like they do if you go to a restaurant, you have a bunch of allergies. Like here's, or like here's everything you need to know. Let's
yeah, that, like, I had like that Joker card.
Okay, so let's talk about the clip. Let's go into the clip. You went with a virtual clip, which is this will be a first for the show.
Okay.
So, but that's the thing is over the last year, that's been the platform for a lot of comics is doing it virtually. Mm-hmm. So was this a bit that was born before doing the virtual gigs? Like, have you done it on stage before?
Yeah, I've done it on stage. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I do it. I don't know. I do it occasionally. It's not right for every show. But.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Read the room. But okay. So let's pull up the clip and then we'll talk about it.
I have a toddler. Thank you. One person.
Toddlers.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I gave birth. I gave birth to a toddler. I didn't. I don't just like have a toddler. I'm not the Mandalorian. But when I was pregnant, people asked me if I wanted a boy or a girl, and honestly, I had no preference as long as it was a happy, healthy raccoon, the otter, or maybe a pizza. Like, how badass would it be if I delivered a pizza with my body? Be like, oh, you made your pizza with a wood-fired oven? I made mine through fucking. This pizza has my eyes. My beautiful pepperoni eyes. But I had kind of a rough go of it. I had a couple of miscarriages. Natural joke material, obviously. And I found out that the medical term for a miscarriage is spontaneous abortion, which I think makes it sound kind of fun. Like, I played hooky from work, went and got some ice cream cones, and killed a baby with my body. Oh, if you don't like that joke, try having a miscarriage.
Virtual clips. It's such an interesting dynamic. First of all, doing that. Do you feel a difference in, because like at one point you can feel the tension virtually, and then you release it. Like, what is your experience with that virtual versus like a live show?
Well, I've been very lucky. I have a couple of Zoom shows, and we have an audience. We actually have an in studio, on Zoom. Like, we have people in the room, and I feel like it's important to hear that laughter. Mm-hmm. So that's been a good experience, because I've done a couple of Zoom shows where they don't have that, and you're like, I said some words. Maybe they liked it, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But that does help. I feel like there is more attention paid to like broadcast standards. Like, you really have to you can kind of do more with your voice. There's more with your energy you can do. You really have to pay attention to that a lot more than you do for an in-person show. Not that those aren't important, but I mean, I feel like they become crucial in a Zoom show. So,
are you talking like little things like raising an eyebrow, like facial expressions, the little ticks that you don't notice from the back of a bar show or a club?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because you want it to sound like you're talking to somebody. Mm-hmm. You want it, like you really want it to have a little bit more gravitas. Mm. So yeah, I've had pretty good experiences with it. So
yeah, I've only done a few Zoom shows. I've done like speaking, like I've done virtual speaking gigs, and most of the time, like, everybody's muted. So I do a little pause, and I'm like, I think there should be laughter here. It felt good the way I said it. I can't see most of you. I can't hear most of you. I'm just going to assume you're laughing. 1, 2, 3. Next line. Okay. It's weird.
Yeah. It does help. I mean, it's definitely like, you may not have a lot of audience members, but you can still connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also nice to be doing it. Like, I mean, I'm in my house, like my family is like 10 feet away from me.
Yeah.
So yeah, like this doesn't go well. I can just, I don't know, go in, say hi to them and watch, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't have to do like the sad drive after you bomb in person.
Right.
I bombed in my living room. I'm home. I'm safe.
Yeah, I could just go get a drink that I already paid for. So I don't need a drink ticket for this.
Yeah, built
Right.
in.
You can't laugh at that.
Let's talk about the bit itself. So you open with talking about how you gave birth to a toddler,
Mhm.
or you have a toddler. You said you have a toddler, and then you play with the semantics of that. I love plays on the English language, and you do that a couple times throughout this. So we'll get to those in a minute. I feel is language like a thing that you come back to frequently as you're writing jokes?
I think so. I definitely, I think I'm more of a writer than a performer sometimes. So yeah, I definitely like, that is something I always think of. And I try to, it's usually the first type of joke that really occurs to me.
Mm-hmm. Steve, actually, because the show we went to last night was an hour and a half away. We were talking a little bit about like language. Like Steve, you play with words all the time, and it's very funny and it's very punchy and it's very fast. So like, what is your like reasoning? Do you have like what is it about the English language that's so like fun to play with to you?
Oh, I don't know. That's a weird question. I don't know how to answer that.
Because it is. It's a tool. It's a toy that you can play with on stage.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
for things, and yeah.
I mean, especially right now, my daughter is almost 2, and she is starting to talk,
Mm-hmm.
and you really, when she learns a new word, it's like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in that like micro level of language right now, where it's like, oh, she said trash. Oh my god,
it's a big day.
So it really is important, and thinking about what people say and how it's perceived is, I mean, I think it's crucial to the joke.
Mm-hmm. And it's also one of those things that, I have a toddler. Like that's a totally different meaning than, I produced a toddler. Like, even though you're saying the same thing, it's such a tricky use of words. And you're drawing attention to it because there are things that we say every day that are like that we just skip over. And you're like, no, let's talk about this for one sentence.
Well, part of that was I said it one way that time. I said I have a toddler. I'm like, that is weird. Like, that is a weird way to say that. Like, yeah. But then it's also weird to say I've birthed a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
That is very evocative. I feel a little bit too far for the joke before that was about weight loss. So I gotta.
It plays right into it.
Yeah.
And then you tie it into the pop culture reference of The Mandalorian. Is that something that have you used other references for it, or like, as that, down the road, as that goes the way of history? Like, is that something that you can adapt to?
No, I'm stuck with The Mandalorian for the next decade. No,
you guys remember that, right? The Mandalorian, that
was a sensation.
Now there's 100 Star Wars shows. The one that started it all.
I think I've watched an episode of Mandalorian, so I think it was just like a fresh. I will find something else.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll use the Golden Child.
It's a connector. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like this is what I mean by I have a kid.
Yeah,
this is what I don't mean.
It is. I do use a lot of pop culture. I feel like it helps, and then all of a sudden there is that moment where it's like, oh, nobody knows what I'm talking about. No, you don't remember Tiger King? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have a joke that I'm super proud of that isn't as relevant today, and I'm trying to rack my brain as to how to translate it into 2021.
I still talk about Duck Dynasty. I just don't care. I just go, it's canceled now, and then I go on with my joke.
Yeah, cancel culture.
Yeah, I have a joke about the Sandlot.
There you go.
And I kind of have to scan the audience. I'm like, is this a Sandlot crowd?
Forever. Forever.
I think the term there is evergreen.
Yeah, forevergreen.
Laughing.
You move on to the gender preference part of it, because you're like leading up. I feel like you put these here to lead up to the heavy hit at the end.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. So the gender preference thing, as long as it's happy and healthy, don't care. Are you? Now, this is maybe me reading too deep into a joke, because that's like when somebody sends me a bit, I'll play it a few times and think like, oh, is this what she really meant? See, to me, it's a calling out of like gender preference, of like preferring a boy or a girl, and like calling out the construct by introducing a silliness to it. Was that kind of the goal?
Oh yeah. First of all, it's just gender reveal parties are a cancer.
They're literally killing people.
They really are at this point. They're a leading cause of death. But they are, they're silly. And honestly, I was just like, as long as it's happy and healthy, and just kind of give some examples. And I get to pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, that would be great. That would
great.
Be great. How exciting would that pizza be if you gave birth to it? Pizza's already exciting. It's already like getting a pizza is just fantastic. It's one of the
you hit that order button on DoorDash, and then the anticipation is that what it's like to be pregnant?
It's not delivery, it's little cesareans. I love the double meaning when you say the delivery thing. I like that like double thing going on. It's funny.
If I delivered a pizza with my body, technically, isn't that what a pizza delivery person is already doing? But just
oh, yeah. They're like, it's pepperoni.
Oh, I ordered veggie. Like, you're not going to do that with a kid. Like, oh, I wanted a boy. Unless you're in China, but that's a totally different topic for another episode.
Or you're some people I know that are like, oh man, I knew somebody that was like their significant other was like, yeah, if this isn't a boy, I'm out of here.
What?
Like, okay.
What are you, China?
Yeah.
No. You're in suburban America and it's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I have to further my family name.
The crest must live on.
Come on.
I have a sword.
A sword.
To inheritance. So stupid.
Yeah. You can give your baby any name they want. They can keep your name. They could. Hey, if they're a boy, they can throw your name in the river too. It's fine.
Right. You want to name me Moses? Well,
that's part of the name changing process. You throw your old name in the river.
Yeah. But to me, that's so simple-minded. Like, oh, I'll be disappointed if it's one thing or not the other. It's like, what? That's such a childish thing. Because I remember when I was a kid, I was like, I have to have all boys. Like, that's a kid. That's a real elementary way of looking at things.
Well, part of it too, and I don't go into it in this joke, but I did IVF to have my daughter, and part of IVF is you do genetic testing before you have the baby. They do the genetic testing on 5-day-old blastocysts. So you honestly, like, the sex really early. Like it's not a surprise. And it's like they test for all these things. And it's like sex and gender are really like not that important. Like they're the least important thing you know about your child, even 5 days in. So
Yeah.
It's not a deal breaker. That's like, it's like being at a comedy show and being like, if this next comic's a woman, I'm walking out. What? No. I mean, that's a much more simple
they're
comparison.
like setting a smoke break.
Yeah. Come on. Just you enjoy it for who it is as a human being. Like that's it.
Yeah.
That is it. Yeah. The expectation and the breaking of the expectation. I think you do a good job of calling that out. And then you use like raccoon. All right. First of all, what's the thing with raccoons? Because you in your bio,
I love them. I'm excited. I'm basically just on Nextdoor just to find out where the raccoons are in my area. Yeah, I think they're great. They're resourceful. They do well in a variety of neighborhoods, and I champion them. So
I love that. I love how you called them resourceful. I love that. You've humanized them.
Yeah.
Which is good because they have opposable thumbs, I think.
I was once in a really serious conversation with my family, and I saw a bunch of raccoons out of the corner of my eye. I went, raccoon! We all were actually raccoons. So
if you could have one as a pet, not even a question.
I don't know. I do draw the line at that. I want a respectful friendship with a raccoon.
Okay.
I don't feel like I have 2 cats that I can't have any other species mixing with those cats. Mostly because of what they'll do. So I think I'm good for some grapes, maybe wave, words of encouragement. So
yeah. Yeah, you're the person in that video with the whole like flock of raccoons outside the door, like feeding them.
Yeah.
People I probably get, because I've built the brand where I probably get sent like a raccoon video like once a week.
Okay, you've seen all of them. The cotton candy one, in the water. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I've seen the guy in Canada where he feeds 75 raccoons.
Yep, I saw that one. What was he feeding them again? Oh, that was ridiculous.
I think it was cat food, if I'm remembering the right one correctly.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, there is. I will admit,
pate.
It does sound awesome, but I'm also like, oh, that is that guy's whole life now.
Yeah.
Like he has to be home at a certain time to greet the raccoons.
Yeah, sorry guys, gotta run, gotta feed the kids.
It's a Catholic family.
Yeah. So is that the reason that you use raccoon sea otter pizza, just to elevate the silliness so that when you do get to the serious stuff, it doesn't feel as like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's kind of a little bit of a misdirect there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just you hear raccoon, you're like, you get a little happy. Mm-hmm. You haven't had an infestation in your attic, but
right. That there's some trauma. Like, yeah, no, the miscarriage bit was fine, but why would you bring up raccoons?
I'm sure there's someone out there that's like
100%.
Throw down my fence, man.
How dare you? You'll never work in this town again. And then he scurries off into the garbage.
I mean, that's part of it, is that you never know what's gonna offend somebody about a joke. So, I mean, you might as well tell it. Like, if someone's, it is interesting. If someone is offended by raccoons, get at me and let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. We have so many questions. They're misunderstood. So and then you get into the meat of the topic. You talk about how you had a couple of miscarriages, and then you make the comment, oh, this is natural joke material. I think that does a good job of kind of like, it's a little like mini perspective shift. So it's like you're telling people that you're okay with it. Just that one, that quick little quip.
Yeah.
Oh, natural joke material. Like it's going to be okay. You kind of deliver that message before you get to the joke.
Yeah. Yeah. There is some couching definitely with this joke. It definitely is. You do kind of have to set it up. You need some cushioning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can't just, this cannot be my opener. So.
Yeah, no. Hey guys, guess what?
Quarantine's over. I'm here at this brewery on these steps. I'm going to tell you.
I'm going to give the people what they want. This is definitely what they want. So we kind of already talked about, what struck you as funny. Did you resist laughing? Were you like, no, that's not, like, I can't find humor in the spontaneous abortion, like the terminology for it? Or were you like, oh, that's funny? Oh
no, I'm dead inside. So
okay, yeah.
No, if I can find a way to make something funny, at least for me, I will always go for it. Maybe not necessarily on stage every time, but like I'm usually anything bad that's happened to me in my life. I mean, I'm always trying to, like, as soon as I can make jokes about it, I do. Like, I feel like it helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's an important distinction, I think, too, because you don't have to take something tragic that's happened to you and be like, no, I'm going to make other people laugh about it. Like, that can be your own thing.
Yeah. It took me a while. I think I told this joke, on stage, probably around spring or summer of the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it had been a while and there'd been some distance. Yeah, I think I actually developed it for a dark show that I was on. Now that I'm remembering, and then kind of grew from there.
Mm.
I think. No, I'm sorry. There might be some. If you have evidence to the contrary out there, let me know. But yeah, and then tried it on regular stages and. Mostly does well. I've had a couple instances where people are like, that's a little too much baby death for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. It was a little bit too much for me too. So.
Yeah. And is that what influenced the closing line of that bit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically just kind of anticipating the reaction. Like,
mm-hmm.
You don't like it? I didn't like it either. So
yeah.
Not a good thing to happen.
No. The tragedy plus time equals comedy equation. It's so simplified because there's so many other factors that play into that: perspective, intent. There's so much more to it than just event plus distance.
Yeah.
What are your takes on that equation?
I do feel like you kind of have to come to I think, especially if you're telling it to other people, like, I don't mind telling it to my husband or some people in my family or friends or whatever. But I think if you want to tell it on stage, I feel like you kind of have to have a little bit of peace in yourself with it. If you come off as too hurt, you get the worst reaction, in my opinion, is the sympathy.
Mm.
If you get too much sympathy, then people aren't laughing. Yeah, it's nice. It's like, but and there have been times when it was new, especially when it was a brand new joke. It was I got that reaction sometimes, and it was like, oh, this is a little bit hard to take, but.
Well, what you do is you don't make the joke about the thing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mistake that I see a lot of new comics do is they'll take a topic that's heavy and make it about the thing itself. Like, let's use a current example. Like, oh, isn't it funny that police officer at the Capitol got killed? And it's like, I like that you're trying to make light of something that's heavy, but you're doing it wrong. Like, there are so many other things. So you focus on the language of it.
Yeah. In any way that, I mean, any joke that you have, and that's the joke, like that. No, it doesn't. Even if it's dark, if it's light, you have not written the joke. Mm-hmm. You can't just say premises and, and expect that to work. Yeah, especially now. I mean, so much news happens. Like, I mean, we have so much media around us that you have to kind of explain things more that have happened in pop culture. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you can just tell the Sandlot joke and people let go with it. Like, all right, it's not my problem you haven't watched The Sandlot in 25 years.
This movie is forever relevant. But I think the way that you approach this bit makes it palatable for more people. You know, you open with the silliness. You call out something totally different by, again, making it silly, the gender preference construct. And then you communicate to the audience that it's going to be okay by saying that, oh, this is natural joke material. So, okay, so that's like, okay, she's okay now. Like, I don't have to feel bad for her. And then you do the power of threes, the three fun things. Like, you play off of the language of spontaneous abortion. Like, oh, that sounds kind of fun. Here are some fun things that I like. Have you tried other things beyond like the getting the ice cream
yeah, I kind of, for some reason, I also sometimes when I'm writing jokes is I have like pictures in my head, and I always picture like a beach vacation. I'm always like, I'm on a, like I'm getting some balloons, like, just maybe getting my portrait done at a carnival. I just always think about something that sounds kind of like, oh, you're having a fun day. Like you're just like living in the moment, like shopping, having a good time. And I try to paint that picture. So anything that kind of goes along with that has been tried. But I don't know. I also, if it helps, I always picture, I have the ice cream. I have the two-fisted ice cream. Like when I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's a funny visual.
I'm not. Yeah, I should probably have a visual. I don't know, but
I imagined you like I thought you were just almost gonna say like ta-da, like in that bit as I was listening to it for the first time. That's like the thing that went through my mind, like a magic show or something, like spontaneous or like an improv show. Like spontaneous abortion. That sounds like an improv game where you like, where you have to learn how to say yes and when somebody like torpedoes a game. Like, so when there's somebody that their role is to say no, and you have to yes and their no. Like spontaneous abortion of the bit. Like whatever. I don't know.
I need a birthday fact and
yeah, quick. But again, the playing with the language, like spontaneous abortion, it does sound like it could be a fun thing. and then until you start really thinking about it, and you can't let the audience think about it. And then you do the first two fun things, and then you hit them with the, like.
It sounds like a freewheeling, like Sandra Bullock movie. Like she's got long hair. He's an uptight lawyer. Blah,
Yep. Absolutely. And then the calling out of people who don't like the joke. I mean, that's, we kind of already touched on that, but people are going to have their own perception of it, but it's not their place to tell you like how to experience your life.
Yeah. That doesn't stop people. That doesn't, but that, I mean, people do that all the time. I mean, they do that all the time in motherhood, especially. One of my good friends, Jen Saunderson, she's very pregnant right now, and she has taken to TikTok, and she posted a TikTok making fun of those pregnancy, like maternity photos. If you haven't seen them, a lot of them are the woman is scantily dressed or naked in a field, and it's all like motherhood is natural, and it's all puppies and rainbows, and she's like, I don't feel that way, so I don't want to do these photos. And then she got attacked about it. On TikTok. People thought, oh, she's making fun of me, and I'm like, oh, she's making fun of the society, like pressured to say, oh, pregnancy is always perfect, it always goes really well, and it's great, and you don't feel tired. And you don't
I just want to have this baby, and I want it to be healthy. I don't want to do any field stuff. Like, just
I would like to leave the outdoors out of this.
Yes.
I'm on a mission, damn it. Like,
yeah, but she got people stitching her video and getting like really up in arms, and it's like, you kind of missed the point.
that's what TikTok, I hear so much about how TikTok is just full of people complaining about just everything. It's like, you almost can't avoid it.
Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, and you know, a lot of it is with moms. I mean, there's so many ways to mess up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is very, I mean, there's just from like breastfeeding or bottle feeding, or, you know, or like just screen time is a big one that I hope goes away after the pandemic. So, like, because it's like, oh, you know, you can't give your baby, and some of it is just cyclical. It's like, this won't even really be an issue like 5 years from now, but it's like vaccines are a big one. Of course, I am an anti-vaxxer, so I don't know if you guys, I'm kidding.
I was like, okay.
I was going to elaborate, please. Let's explore.
Yeah, thank God I didn't run into a lot of like anti-vax moms in the mom groups, but yeah, it's there. Yeah. But
do you think the pushback is a result of like an insecurity of their choice to do those things, or like, oh, I'm not totally happy with how these pictures turned out, and like,
oh yeah, I feel like, I mean, first of all, I feel like I feel like any pitcher, like any professional pitcher, is a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is, they're not cheap. Like they're not cheap. It's like a time, you know, you have to do it at a certain time. You know, you have to get so many pictures, you know, you have to really have a good outfit choice, you know, and like, it's frustrating, and they're expensive. They're like, I mean, I don't know how people get like 6 of them a year. That's like $1,000.
Yeah. So again, I understand kind of why they feel attacked, because if I'm not like, no matter what it is, if I'm not certain on my position, like if I haven't done the research on it,
yeah.
If I like, if there's any question, I feel a little bit attacked when somebody has a different point of view, because there's a gap in knowledge there. But I'm not gonna lash out. I'm gonna explore it a little bit more. But most people don't have that mentality where it's like, you know, I'm not certain in the decisions that I've made, and you're doing these things that are making fun of those decisions. Well,
stop, David, stop. David, stop. You're hurting my ego right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, and there's so many, I mean, there's really like no right way to parent, because I mean, kids are different. Every kid is different. And like, you know, what might not work for one kid would work for another. And, you know, like you constantly have to adjust. You have to, I mean, your priority overall is, I want to keep this kid alive and healthy. And you just kind of, it's good to like, it's good to keep open. It's good to keep open and don't get too committed to some way that may or may not work. You kind of have to look at these things with, soft eyes, because I mean, you're not there to bring a wire reference into it. But you do kind of have to look at things like, okay, well, I wouldn't do that, but I'm also not with that child 10 hours a day, So.
How dare you tell me how to parent my child? How dare you tell me how to deal with my own personal traumas? Now I'm going to tell you how you should. Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been pretty happy with like the mom groups, though. I feel like mostly I was afraid that it'd be a lot of that, like a lot of judgment. And it really has been mostly just women complaining about their husbands.
That's standard, though.
Yeah, it's just I think the most common comment is just leave him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much? Like, is he really that bad? If he's that bad, get rid of him. Okay. Well, I think do you think it's helpful to like surround yourself with like comics? Because for the most part, when I have a conversation with a comic about something, it's more of an exploration of the gray versus like, no, it's an either or thing. Like, you're either doing it right or wrong. And so that's why I think it's like such a breath of fresh air for me to talk to comics, to do this podcast. It's been so much fun because nobody's like, this is the right way to do whatever it is we're talking about. There's so many different ways to look at it.
I mean, just like with parroting, I mean, there's many different approaches, and it really depends on your sensibility and what works best for you, and how you will arrive at it. Like, there's, I mean, but there's also like, there's not a Dr. Spock for writing miscarriage jokes,
right?
So, yeah, you kind of have to just find what works, for your style and go from there. Because I mean, if you're a more caustic comedian then probably my style won't work. So
have you run into somebody who's told you that like you can't joke about that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How do you engage that person?
I had a comic that I did really like. He's since left the business. But he told me I had a joke about murder, and he was like, I wouldn't joke about murder on stage. He says, I feel like especially since you're a woman, it seems too dark and it turns people off. And I was like, I think you just kind of, if it's somebody you really want to have like a conversation with, you can have a conversation, but sometimes you just kind of go, okay, and just do it.
And in your head, you're like, nope.
I'm like, well, you're like, okay, so it didn't work for this. It didn't work for you. That's what you're telling me. It didn't work for you. It didn't work for it, or you didn't think it worked for this crowd. I mean, that's feedback, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like you can. I feel like there might be better ways to joke about it, or you might try to find a way to relate it more. But I like dark jokes. I am a woman, so I like when other women tell dark jokes. So I don't really quite buy that.
Dark humor is great. So some people just can't handle it, and then that's their problem, and then everybody else can enjoy it. But it is kind of niche too, though, at the same time, I guess. Or not niche, just, it's not like everybody likes dark comedy, but I hate it when people have an opinion about it. Like, you can't do that. I'm like, no, it's not for some people, but I'm going to continue to do it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like anybody is telling you like you can't do something, like I mean, especially it's mostly like audience members that like haven't watched very much comedy, and they have I mean, it's fair. I mean, I don't know, like I don't watch a lot of sports. Like I probably like, I like this kind of football. I like the kind of football that ends really quickly.
Yeah. hey, you shouldn't tackle like that. I've never done this before, but seems
but I got
dangerous.
a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And
sports are dumb. Go 49ers. I don't like sports though, so I get it.
It's very appropriate for your background.
Yeah.
I mean, they're telling you they didn't like it, and that's fine. You can not like a joke.
Yeah.
You can not. I mean, there's some comedians that I think are good that are just not for me. So
right. It's it's tough for some people to see the punchlines. That there was a little quote from our Lord Jeremy Demery, and I definitely agree with that. In a lot of cases, you can lose people in the setup if it's not done right. So they miss the punchlines. But also to come up to a comic afterwards and say, you shouldn't do that. That's not a productive conversation. Like, okay, tell me more about that. Like, what should I do? Like, what would work better in this situation? I'm more than willing to listen to that conversation but if you're to tell me, oh, you shouldn't do this joke, it's like, that doesn't give me anything. Like you're missing the nuance by giving me a very direct approach. Like, let's talk about a little bit more than yes or no.
Oh yeah. I I don't want to hear what they want, what they want me to do instead. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, if it's just because I feel like that's kind of entitled. I mean, to just go up to somebody and be like, I don't like your joke. I don't think you should joke about that. I feel like that is less about I'm trying to help you than and more about I want to have my control over everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well.
Unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
It's the worst when it's that out of tune with understanding that people can do whatever they want and just because you have an opinion. I don't know. At least be like, well, this is what I think and this is why, and I have good reasoning. But it's like, even then it's like, well, all right, bye. I don't know.
I will say the one thing I don't particularly like about dark jokes is sometimes they're an invitation to other dark jokes that aren't very good. Mm-hmm. And then people are like, oh, you have this joke about your Jewish husband. Here's a whole bunch of anti-Semitic jokes that I have that you can use. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. To try to overlay your experience onto mine.
Yeah.
It's a big big difference.
Or people that have dead baby jokes and I'm like, you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
My math teacher actually used to tell dead baby jokes in class in 11th grade, and it was the weirdest, most tone deaf thing. Even in 2003, that was weird. Wow.
Was it like if one train of dead babies leaves Chicago at 1 p.m.?
No, yeah. Oh my God. Jeez, they were like the microwave ones. It was bad. Yeah, it's not.
It was such a big year for dead babies.
I know, right? Mr. Barilli. Anyways.
Oh, we're dropping names.
It was like we went from there to Chuck Norris jokes. Like quite the evolution.
Yeah.
You crossed the line.
All right, let's. I want to play this clip by Ali Wong. She's she did 2 of her specials while pregnant. So, the idea of motherhood and Ali Wong are kind of synonymous with one another as far as comedy. Amy Schumer did one too, didn't she?
Yeah.
Was she pregnant when she did hers? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Kira Saltanovich, did one.
Yeah, and I love it because it's like it's something that you're going through. Why are you going to quit? Like, why are you not going to do that? I love it. It's such an interesting dynamic, and it's like, of course, you have to. If you go through the whole set without mentioning it, okay, like it's the elephant in the room in this case. Like you have to at least draw attention to it with
and sometimes in those later months, literally.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah. Did you do while you were pregnant? Did you do jokes about it?
Oh yeah. I did. I did stand up until I think the 8th month I was pregnant. And it was, you have to, you have to address it. If you don't address it, it's real weird.
Did she not know?
Yeah, you could just go up and do your regular like drinking jokes and hey, I like to microwave things and ride roller coasters and
Just the infinite in the room.
eat uncooked lunch meat.
So I was wasted the other night. That's gonna go well. There's gonna be no follow-up questions there. All right, Ali Wong.
Jeremy, clip. Jeremy.
Ali Wong, a clip on pregnancy.
Clip,
now.
I'm very grateful to be pregnant and to be this far along, to be 7.5 months pregnant, because last year I had a miscarriage, which is very common. And a lot of women who are in their 20s flip out when they hear that. And they're like, oh my God, that's so dark and terrible. I can't believe that. I'm 33. Girl, when you're 33, you'll know plenty of women who have had a miscarriage. It's super common, and I wish more women would talk about it so they wouldn't feel so bad when they go through it. When I told my mom, she's from a third world country, and when I told her I had one, she was like, yeah, where I'm from, that's like losing a pair of shoes. It's whatevs, okay? And everything happens for a reason. I found out at my 6-week sonogram, which is very early, and the doctor says to me, oh my God, I see 2 sacs, which means you're having twins. And I was like, no! And then she said, but what I don't see is a heartbeat. And I was like, yes! The Lord is mysterious! Don't feel bad, okay? They were the size of poppy seeds. I've picked boogers larger than the twins that I lost. Most women won't let their husbands watch when they're going through a miscarriage. I sat my husband down in front of me while I sat on the toilet, and I was like, you look. You watched the whole thing. And he felt so bad for me. And I used it as leverage and held that shit over his head for a month and got him to do whatever the fuck I wanted him to do for 30 days. He took me to see Beyonce. He bought me a bike off of Craigslist. That's my miscarriage bike, and I love it very much. For 30 days, I finally had the marriage I always wanted.
That was great.
Have you heard that bit before?
Yeah. It's been a while. But yeah, that's that is funny. I almost got a Lexus for my miscarriage.
Oh, really?
The guy was many laying around.
But yeah, I like what she does there. I like how she kind of sets it up like there are a lot of bad things that can happen to you. This was one of them. And losing a pair of shoes is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. And giving it the perspective of a different culture too. The things that we hold in high regard or are offended by or push into the closet and never to be seen. Like in other places, they're just openly talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also gives you the perspective of, this is a bad thing that you can't control, and it's out of your control, and I mean, you can't, you're gonna go nuts if you're like, what if I do this? What if I do that differently? I mean, you have to live your life. So
yeah, what do you control? What do you not control? Be okay with the things that you don't.
Yeah,
and stop like misattributing to things that you don't control to your own choices. It's like you can't do that. And I read an article by her too, where she's talking about how people will like offer their opinions, like, oh, well, it's probably because you were on the road doing comedy still. And it's like, you don't know anything about this. Why are you?
Yeah, my grandma said, she was like, it's because you travel too much. And I was like,
all right, Dr. Grandma.
It's great for a woman who probably has been out of Oklahoma like 10 times in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's also like, you know, I think especially like older women were told that it was their fault. And they were told, oh, it's because you did this and you did that. And that's a bummer. That's really awful. But it is, unfortunately, it is very easy to lose a baby.
Mm-hmm.
It can happen to anybody. I mean, it happens to young women. It happens to older women. You know, like it's, I mean, I also thought the element where she was talking about twins too. And like, yeah, twins they're scary. They're scary because that is a very, it's a higher risk pregnancy than people might think. So.
For sure. I know somebody just gave birth to triplets, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's, ooh. I can't even imagine having one, let alone three. Like,
my fertility doctor was like, don't, you know, he says he has a lot of women that come in there at first that are like, oh, I'll have twins and then I'll be done. And he's like, it is hard. And like, you can be faced with some really serious, like, I mean, decisions. Like, I mean, one could die in the womb. That happens kind of often, especially with triplets or quadruplets. That's unfortunately very common. And then almost every multiple birth is early, and yeah.
and these are you're just stating objective facts. Like,
yeah,
you know, those are all setups to a punchline by a person who's ready to deliver that punchline. You know, so to say that it can't be laughed at is so limiting. And it costs people the chance to feel empowered by someone else. I mean, that almost sounds like cheesy to be like, oh, this comedian empowered me by telling this, but she, like, you and Allie both took ownership over the situation that you were dealt, and turned it into something that brings people a positive emotion.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Well, thank you.
If you can make one person laugh at that, like, that's it goes so far, not only for you as an individual, but for them too. You know, I mean, they can, even if I'm a guy, I'm never going to have a miscarriage myself, but you know, there are things that are outside of my control too, that I can apply that to, you know, terrible things that have happened where it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't blame myself for this thing that I had no control over.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I mean, and especially, you know, as a female comic, you know, there still aren't many, even with the specials as of late with Amy Schumer and Ali Wong and like that's just like a couple comics that have done specials. Like, I mean, it's not, and of course, when I was pregnant, people were like, "Oh, you're pulling an Amy Schumer," and it's like, gosh, that's been like, so few people have done this, and now this is like hack now.
Yeah.
Like me being pregnant and on stage is hack.
It's like people
really
are
kind
pregnant.
of open the floodgates to what is hack and what isn't. It's like, well, everybody does something a lot, and doesn't make it hack. It's too broad, I think, to be hack, you know, especially considering you are pregnant and you are doing comedy. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, duh. Like, what are you?
Right. Oh, you just got fired from your job and you're doing comedy about it? How hack?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's always from like a comic that's one of 10 guys on a show doing jokes about weed.
Yep.
Believe me, I know. I know about miscarriages, and you should. That's hack, because Ali get out of here. But she did a few different things with it too. I mean, she did the same thing that you did. Like, she made the conversation commonplace. Just calling out the fact that it happens, normalizing the imperfections of the human body. That's what comedy is. Comedy is our way of coping with the imperfections of everyday life, of our flaws.
I mean, that was something too. She pointed out like how small the babies are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at 6 weeks, like you're basically like the size of glitter. I mean, yeah.
Zygote or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe beyond that. I don't know. I wouldn't know for sure, but see, this is why men can't talk about this stuff.
Yeah, zygotes.
Hey, I've had one in me, and I'm like, what is a zygote again?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I remember that from biology class.
Yeah.
So, all right. So if everything in the world were not perfect, because then comedy wouldn't exist. But if this were a topic that were more widely accepted, what would it take to do that? Is this something like we should educate being okay with these flaws in school? Or is this something that we should just have a more public forum? Like what would go into it?
I feel like people should be able to talk about it. They should be able to, I mean, it is a medical thing that is happening to you. So you should be able to talk about it like you would cancer or even, like, I mean, I mean, similarly, I mean, with like abortion, like you should be able to, it's legal. You should be able to have one. I mean, if you don't want to be pregnant for any reason, you shouldn't be pregnant.
Right.
So like, and that is in the same, I really feel like people need to not have, they need to have more conversations about it and and admit like, I mean, one of the things that kind of helped me was just hearing from people that have had miscarriages and like that hadn't said it publicly. And I had no idea. I had no idea that all these people that I knew had miscarriages and what their experiences were. And just hearing that was, I mean, it was sad, but it was also comforting. It was like, oh, other people have been here before. And like, I feel like that should be something that should be talked about in reproductive health. Like we shouldn't be finding this out. Like Ali Wong said, like women in their 20s being like, oh, that's terrible. Like I didn't know that many women had that. Like we should all know this. We shouldn't think that it's such a rare thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's actually a psychological term for avoiding upsetting topics and delivering bad news. It's so common that there's a term for it. It's called the mum effect.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, this is from I'm listening to Option B. It's by Sheryl Sandberg. She's on the board of Facebook, and like it centers around her husband dying unexpectedly, and she says in the book that once the elephant in the room isn't acknowledged, it starts acting up and trampling over interactions and relationships. And so, like, we have this, if we know something uncomfortable happened to somebody, we have a tendency to try to avoid talking about it when, like, they may really want to talk about it. And that's one of those things where it's like, you have to have the communication skills to figure out
I'm guilty
where
of
that person is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to talk about it with everybody.
Right.
But,
Like, hey, hi, I'm nice to meet you. Actually, technically that's what we're doing right now. But
yeah, but I think too, it's like it kind of goes to toxic positivity where it's like everything's got to be all great all the time, and if it's not, it's people don't know how to cope, and that is really dangerous because things aren't great all the time. They frequently aren't okay, and people have to go on living. So it's if you don't find a way to address it and cope with it, then it's just going to get worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well said. So if you could give a comic who has gone through this, any tips as far as like writing a bit around it, what would you tell them? And then same question for somebody who isn't a comic who's trying to cope with it.
Don't be afraid to bring up something difficult. I mean, especially as a female comic, there aren't that many of us still. I mean, we're still only like 11%, I think, or something like 15% of comics working today. So your perspective on it is fresher than you might think.
You hear that, people, women who are considering doing comedy, do it. Get on stage. Like, we need you. We need your perspective. We need to normalize a lot of the things that you're going through. Like, it's a learning experience for a lot of people who don't have that experience. That's what I love about comedy, is I can connect with you like through your experience in a way, even though like I'm not going through it. I could still kind of, if it's done right, I can still feel some of the same emotions on a smaller scale.
I mean, even, somebody that's gone through a miscarriage, it's very likely. So, I mean, it's something that you might go through it yourself, like as a partner. So like, it's good to know what that's like and what it feels like and be able to talk about it. So
yeah, shine a light on it. It's there. That's how we take power over it. Can't keep it in the dark. Awesome. Steve, anything else you want to throw in?
No, I don't have anything to add.
All right. Very good. This episode was not brought to you by Yingling, but if you are interested in starting a podcast of your own, or you want to improve the audio quality on your podcast, the Samson Q2U mic is like $60, and it comes with a little stand, and you sound like you're in the room. It's great. So there's a link in the show notes if you're interested in improving your sound quality. And now it's time for your plugs, Genevieve.
Well, I have a couple shows. I run an open mic called the Little Bird Showcase on Thursdays at 8 Pacific time. And that is free to anybody that wants to perform or watch. And we welcome everyone. It's been a lot of fun, a really good time, especially if you haven't done a lot of Zoom shows. It's a good one to check out, in my incredibly biased opinion. And then we've been doing a book show on Saturday called The Birdcage. Those are on Saturdays, also at 8 Pacific. And those are just $5 donation. We also stream it on Facebook and Twitch and take donations for the comics. And those have been great. We've had people like Emmett Montgomery and Mary Mack, and it's just been a blast. And you guys can follow me. I'm at Genevieve Rice on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And then Bird City Comedy is the organization my shows are under. And you can follow me pretty much anywhere. So yeah.
If you send us the link to the Birdcage and the Little Bird Showcase, we'll put it in the show notes too. So
cool.
So they have an easier way to access those things rather than having to like hunt for them.
Yeah, I do have a link tree. I'll send you that.
Okay, hell yeah, perfect. That makes it easier for me too. Awesome, Genevieve. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your perspectives, your sense of humor with us, and proving that no matter what, if you have control over what happens to you, if you don't have control over it, if it's stigmatized by society, there's always a way to make it more commonplace by laughing at it.
You can't laugh at that.